Terry. I know people are like, what? You guys get it together. No, but we're living by the moment. We gotta be, because things is happening. There's lightning fast, and there's family and pets and cars and things that are just like
life just happens, right?
It does, and we're just flying by the seat of our pants, and we're participating. We're still here. I know. I took that long drive, and I just needed a break too. But then I came home to a sick cat and all kinds of. It's like everybody. There was this song where somebody was saying, I know who it is, Popeye, on the original Popeye with
Yeah.
Oh gosh, you know who I'm talking about, with olive oil and the
olive oil and Wimpy, yeah.
Yeah, but the guy, the comedian,
who is the comedian?
From Mork and Mindy.
Robin Williams.
All right, and she says, "Nobody needs me." And it's like everybody needs me. So she needs to come trade places with me. She was all sad because nobody needed her. And I think that's when she found the baby. Because she found that little baby. Yeah, she found that little baby.
The movie.
Oh, yeah?
Do you know that Popeye was a real man? That the character Popeye was based on a real man. Yeah. He was a dock worker in Michigan, I believe.
Whoa.
Yeah. And so the guy who started Popeye knew of this guy, and I've actually seen pictures of the original Popeye online, and so he looks exactly like the cartoon character.
Yeah. Oh man, I just saw the picture and the baby's name was Sweet Pea. That's what it was.
Sweet Pea, right? Sweet Pea.
Yeah, Popeye and Sweet Pea. Yeah. So I don't know how many sweet peas I got. How many sweet peas you got?
I have less sweet peas now than I used to.
Oh, okay. There it was. Popeye. That was Robin Williams. Yeah. That's amazing. Okay, well, today that wasn't what it was about, but we're going with the flow.
We get off topic.
We do. So today, Terry, I was thinking about being a ghost in a shell. I was watching this particular series, and I just noticed how the one lady, she was just going along, and she would just do random little things that were out of character, and everybody be like, "Are you okay?" And she says, "Yeah, I'm fine. Yeah, I'm fine." And like, you could be going through the motions, going through the day-to-day, but very unfulfilled and not really even understand why or really know why. But then you find yourself doing things like little silent protests, little things that you can do to scream from the inside. Like, you're quiet, but in your actions, you're screaming to be heard. Like, you might start making lots of mistakes or not showing up in ways, not participating, or there's just these little silent ways, of moving through. But you're moving through life, and you're there, but you're not showing up 100%. You go for it.
So can I just, as you're talking, it's like this part of us is disconnected with this part. So there's that part of our soul, of our inner child that is calling out, but the thinking part
is here. Pay attention to me. Pay attention to me. I'm in here somewhere, and I want to. When I was coming to the conclusion that it is like the saying about hope deferred. When we are growing up and thinking, I'm going to be a firefighter, or I'm going to get married and have beautiful children. And like we have like all these hopes and dreams, whatever it is, it could be something amazing. Like I'm going to own, 1,000 stores, whatever the goal was. And then you find yourself approaching these doors that are slamming in your face and it's cutting off your dream, and then you just kind of learn no, right? They even tell us like in elementary school you got all the bright colors and everything's possible and you can dream, and as you go through school they say no, you can't do this, you should do this, you can only do this, you got to do it this way. And so we find ourselves like where our imagination and creativity are limited, and now our dreams are limited, and now we get to the point where we are an adult and we got bills, or maybe we're not, we don't want to be single, or we want to be, we want children, or we want a beautiful home, we can't afford it, and then we have all these no's just burying us, and now we just are just like, what are we living for? Because now it becomes, what is the reason for living? And people just become like a ghost in the shell. And that's a cartoon. I never watched it, but I was just gonna ask, am I a ghost in the shell? Am I moving through routines while something deeper in me sleeps or hides? Am I living or just appearing? And
Mm-hmm.
sometimes we have to do something extreme to come back out of this shell. Or I didn't even think of this before, your shell has to be broken. Remember they say we have to get her out of her shell, right?
Right,
Um,
right.
Sometimes the breaking of our shell is something traumatic where it's live or die. It's it becomes some type of fight for the will to live that we have to sometimes get broken by life to now do something different.
Well, and it's interesting because we can't break anybody out of their shell. They have to break them. They have to break out of it themselves. Like you don't break a baby bird out of its shell because it'll come out when it's ready,
Ooh.
right? Or
Or
a
it is in
chrysalis
danger
has to
of coming out
butterfly.
incomplete. Have you ever seen
That's
that
right.
about the like someone tried to cut a caterpillar out of its casing
Yeah,
and the wings
yeah,
never developed. So it
yeah.
came out deformed because of that.
Yeah. And I think, we have we want to wake people up. We want them to be there, but we can't, all we can do is nurture them and they'll wake up when they're ready. And it's kind of hard to watch them. We can assist, but we can't do the work for them. So we got to help them in a way that's going to be empowering for them, right? Because we can do it for them. And I mean, I'm guilty of this. I've done so many things for my kids, right? But then it's like, yeah, but they have to do it themselves. Or you have a kid that says, I do it myself, right? Okay, you do it yourself. And that's their higher self saying, I need to do this, not me, not, mom, you don't need to do it. But we have a tendency, we want to be helpers, we want to do things. And to what extent is it? It's not helping anybody, because then we're feeling drained, we're feeling like taken advantage of, and meanwhile the other person, it's disempowering for them. So we can't do somebody else's
It's
job
disempowering
or
for
somebody
them.
else's
It's
life.
disempowering for them because
Yeah,
when I've got hands on how to do a project from A to Z, I now have gained a skill. I have to learn from failure. It was so funny because I heard somebody say that about the Roomba, because the guy was frustrated about the Roomba and they compared it to life. And he was like, every time the Roomba hits a wall, it's learning, right? It's learning. So yeah, we
yeah.
can't do it for others, but for yourself, how are you living like a ghost in a shell? When I speak, do I feel heard, or do I feel like something is whispering from inside me? Is there something I haven't screamed yet, I've been doing a lot of screaming, y'all, because I'm afraid of how powerful it could be. We don't want to hurt people. We want to go silently into the good night. We are. It says people tiptoe through life to make it quietly to the grave because you don't want to upset anyone with what you want. You just become this person. Okay, where is my soul parked right now? In survival, fear, exile, or in power? Do I feel more like a memory than a mission? And these are some questions to ask yourself and you can journal about to get to this point. Um, I'll let you speak, Terry, and then I'll share the screen with some of the.
Well, there's so much there to unpack, but it's like the squeaky wheel gets the grease. How many people do we know who've lived in that silent shell? And I know we've had this discussion, but a lot of a lot of people, but I'm a woman, so I'm going to say a lot of women, especially from this generation of the the baby boomers and stuff. They were, especially the earlier ones, as time progressed, they became more vocal. But you lived a life of this is what was demanded of you, and my parents, my grandmothers, this is what was expected and demanded of you. And if you spoke out about it or wanted something different, then you were branded, you were named, you were singled out. And a lot of people didn't want to stand out in that. And so, they went along with things, and they went along with it, but to become that shell, hidden in that ghost in that shell, because their dreams, their wishes were never fulfilled because they were living based on what society told them and what their upbringing told them, and so they never had a chance to express who they were, who they are. So,
Expectations of others, creating the
mhm,
limitations in your life. But the dreams, the thoughts, and then always putting someone else's needs above yours, or
mhm,
wow. It just everything just brings me back to hope deferred. So we're gonna just say 13 ways to reclaim your life force, and then go on to some cards. I think these are very interesting embodiment
mhm,
practices. So 13 ways to reclaim your life force. Move your hips and breathe your womb. Breathe into your womb. Eat with awareness. Return to your body. Actually being present. I know sometimes you can touch on a certain part of your body and you're like, "Oh my god, I didn't know it was in pain," because we're even becoming we're numb to pain because it's been so much pain that the senses are now dulled and we're not present. We're not nurturing ourselves. Like I know I could use, I haven't been going to get my acupuncture. I haven't been going to get chiropractic treatment. And then I'm just like, ugh, all stiff. And I'm like, oh, wait, it kind of snuck up on me that everything was all tightened up, and because I haven't been aware of my own presence in my own body because I've been busy doing
mhm.
things for other people. Um,
Right.
Daily rituals of presence. Light a candle, say your name out loud, look into the mirror. Yeah, that's like having a date with yourself and look into the mirror and see yourself, like a gazing exercise for you.
Mhm,
A voice activation, when say what you mean, sing or moan or shout if you have to. Let your voice re-enter the world. And I think that's it when you're activating that throat chakra, because you're just getting used to not asking for what you want, saying what you need, expressing yourself. Even laughter and joy has left you, and it's time to be vocal again.
I
Energetic
just
boundaries.
want
Go ahead.
I just want to say something about that. A lot of people, if they live by themselves, if they're not communicating on a
Mm,
regular basis, they're not listening to their voice, they're not hearing their voice, they're not speaking, and then they lose that tone of life. Like I can say for myself, there are some days that I don't speak to anybody. And then like I make it a practice of if I listen to something, I'll read it out loud. Even I'll read a book and I'll read it out loud, just so I'm hearing my voice, I'm hearing those tones, I'm connecting with what's around me, and what's around me is also connecting with me through my voice, through my sound. So I think sometimes, even if you are somebody who doesn't communicate with people every day, just take a book or read an article, but read it out loud, just so you're speaking, and so that your voice is being heard and you're hearing your voice, because we can diminish our voice.
Definitely.
So I just wanted to say
Definitely.
that.
Or people feel that way when they're around children and they say, I want some adult conversation sometimes too. But self-resourcing requires, I think what you just given a great example of self-resourcing. And I guess that's what all this stuff is, because sometimes we're leaning on other people and we have to self-resource. So energetic boundaries, stop letting energy vampires feed. Say no without apology. You know when you don't feel good. You know when you
Yes.
say yes, but you don't really feel it in your body. If you don't feel it. But then here's a thing you can do if you want to even do pre-boundaries. If you got to get your legs strong with practicing, put a beat in between it. I had a friend who always used to say, put a beat in between it. Never say no or yes too quickly, right? You take your time to think about how you feel about it. For some people, it's confusion, but if it comes to you quickly, the answer, then go for it. But then again, too, I saw something yesterday and it said confusion is not a yes, right? If you're confused about it, then it probably is a no. But you could always say, let me think about that. Let's put a pin in that. Let's come back to that later. Let's see how this works
Yes.
out. I feel like nowadays, if anybody is in a hurry for something or they want to rush me to do something, I can't stand that. I'm not doing it, because nine out of 10, if something is get it now, I know that what's for me is for me. So nothing should actually be a rush for me to make a decision, right? Because what is mine by divine right is always mine. So I should never have to really be in a hurry for anything. So you can allow yourself to say no, but sometimes,
Mm-hmm.
putting space in between your answer is another way to help you figure out if it's for you, if you're just not sure. But when you get that feeling in your body when people come around you, because I can get that feeling in my shoulder blade, that's that stabbing in the back feeling, or daggers pointing at you
Right.
feeling. And so you got to listen to it. Ancestral dialogue, call on your ancestors to guide you out of loops that they couldn't escape. And for people who are doing ancestor work, I thought it was so interesting. One day I was working with Magical Michelle, and she was explaining this, and it was really beautiful. How your ancestors will try to guide you, but they are coming from a place of their own personal interest, well-being, or decision making. If you have
Yep.
African ancestors, your African ancestors going to drive you towards what's important to them. They're not going to guide you towards galactic or worldwide spiritual goals. They're going to
Right.
guide you strictly in what is ancestral and what they're tied into, even when it comes to procreation and certain things. So we have to be careful what our ancestors are putting on our plate, because they can come making requests all the time, but those aren't necessarily
Yeah.
for your greatest and highest good.
Right.
Coming from a limited perspective also. So we have to be careful with that. We want the greatest and highest good. So those are going to be coming from source, but you can also ask them to do their work, because they will do the work for you, in some cases to help you with
Yeah.
the healing, because you are there for them, but you have to be mindful how you're working with them. Mirror work. Look at yourself in the morning.
Right.
I thought you just said that, but look at yourself each morning and affirm your own visibility. I see you. I love you. Give yourself a hug. Inner child honoring. Play,
Mhm.
rest, cry. It's okay to cry. I find crying therapeutic. Sometimes I cry for the world or the state of the world or the
Yes.
state of being or for strangers. Sometimes I cry, but I feel like I'm processing energy for the collective. So you can process it for yourself and for the collective too. But definitely play. It's okay to color, to splash your feet in the water, and to do things that it may seem silly for a grown up adult to do. Silly hairdos, like Terry said, painting
Mhm.
your we just say paint your nails pink and putting on a unicorn. I remember we had the unicorn sleeping pajamas and things like that to make
Yeah.
yourself feel good. Adulting is hard 24/7. Shadow
Yes.
work, name your pain and write it, ritualize it, stop letting it run the show. Writing those things down and putting it, burning it and releasing it, or however it is that you do your shadow work. But permission to be soft. Ghosts are cold. Goddess is warm. Let the softness return. Right. Because I think people, they think you're supposed to be an angry little goddess woman. They think you're supposed
Yeah.
to be, me saying no doesn't actually always require me to be, whatever. Return to sacred names. Say your name with power. Your name has a meaning and an energy and frequency and a tone, just like Terry said. And even if you rename yourself, you may even rename yourself spiritually. If you want to call out some attributes like the Cosmic Mama or the First Lady Erica or Terry the Great, the great mystical Terry, the Oracle, the Seer. Um, close old Close the old portals, return the keys, block the X, burn old letters. Ghosts fade when you don't feed them. I know there's people who listen to old voicemails over and over again. There's people that read old letters and stuff, or I'm getting to the point where sometimes with old pictures, I'm like, what is the purpose of having some of the, we're never, I don't know. I don't know. I'm
Yeah,
to the point.
I'm at that point. I got a box of old pictures, and do I want them? No. I tell you, and I'll tell you what. The other thing I have, and this, is my old wedding pictures. My old wedding album. My husband passed away 5 years ago. My life is different now than it was with him. How much do I need to go back to 50 years ago?
What a tradition to keep all these things.
I
But
know, and
who are these?
it's like,
Who are the pictures? What did the pictures represent to your grandchildren? Really, like, I don't
yeah.
know
I
because
I don't know. I'm not. I'm just like I still have boxes of pictures. I don't know. Like I don't want to. I want to release them, and yet I don't want to release them. So there's no. I don't know how to do that
yes, definitely
anyway.
something to think about
That's an old
because
portal.
I remember being in my grandfather's house and he had this table with a coffee table with the glass top. And see, my mom and my granddad, they used to review the pictures and be like, this is tuna, this is da da da, this is da 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 da. And so, but then, growing up, if I were to look at those pictures, I really don't know who they are. My grandfather is gone. My mom's in her 70s. What do these pictures mean to us anymore? Because they don't really mean anything to me. Those were people of a
Hmm.
different time, almost like those things we were talking about this morning about the Sumerians,
Yeah.
because what they were talking about was relevant to them at this time. And so, honestly, even too, reading some of these old books and ancient texts, it's like, are those our gods? Are those the gods of our time? Are those the practices of our time? Are those the things that are important
Yeah.
for right now? Is this equipping me? I like certain things that are timeless. Universal laws are timeless, right? So understanding universal laws, that's timeless. But
Right.
some of these old religions and rules and laws, even our laws, they no longer apply to us. Time to return the keys.
No.
This no longer affects me. This is
Yeah.
no longer important to me. This is no longer relevant. Some traditions of the family, or we don't have to cut the ends off the ham anymore because now we got the big stove. We can fit the whole ham. You know what I'm saying? I love that story. Choose aliveness every
I do
day.
too.
Ask what makes me feel alive, and do the things that answer it. What makes me feel alive? Because there's some things, that's what we always used to say. It's time to pivot because our ideas and goals change as we move forward. Some of that stuff was just there to get you to a point till you reach to the next era of your life. What's important to you now?
Yeah.
Definitely to me, I've already been
And
married. I already had a kid. So those goals, you know, because see, you could say, oh, you're a single woman. You should be doing this, 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 and this. And it's like, oh, yeah, but we already did this. And maybe that's not really important anymore. Maybe the next thing is actually living my dreams and doing this and doing that. These other things are more important to me. And I'm going to say this too, because there's some people that constantly repeating the cycle and they're so dissatisfied with life, especially when it comes to men wanting women, women wanting men, where you're probably reaching this point where if you keep inserting yourself in that cycle where it's like, I want to be married or I want to be with someone, you're going to find that you're not going to be satisfied, that those things the way we used to see attachment is different than what is
mhm.
really important to us now. If I were to become in a full-blown relationship like the one, my first marriage, where my husband was like, where are you going? What are you doing? What did your mom say? Well, what? I would be like, oh my God, I'd be so overwhelmed because, it was these things where we were so locked up with every day. Well, you didn't come home at 6 and you didn't call before you came home. And I thought you were going to cook today. And it's like, dude, like you could not put me back in that cycle of entering into a relationship and being completely codependent and having to explain myself. That just wouldn't work for me anymore. And it's so funny because my mom had this old-fashioned
No.
idea that I should, oh well, you should find you a person with money and you should do this and you should do that. And I was thinking to myself, like, do you understand that if I found me a rich man with money, he would want me to basically serve him and do what he wants and be available for him when he wants me to? And it's like this old-fashioned idea of find you a man and and it's like, no, that doesn't even fit in my life no more. Because if I decide I'm going to fly to Canada to go see
No.
Terry, I'm not explaining that to anybody. That's not going to happen.
Come on down.
Exactly. And it's not that you
Yeah.
couldn't
Come
be
on
in
down.
a relationship. And it's not that you couldn't be in a relationship. You just couldn't be in that kind of relationship anymore. So what my expectations are of relationships is completely different. That was a different time and a different place. And we're different people. And so we're just entering in these cycles. But people are wondering, like, why am I not happy when I enter into the cycle again? I want to try it one more time. The 17th relationship. And
Mhm.
you're like, that's why, because you're not the same to enter into that type of cycle. You got to
Yeah.
change it up.
Yeah.
So,
and
I
and and that's part of like we had this conversation, like we read books, and that book is meant as a stepping stone for us to evolve. Those people who write those books are now anchored to that belief system, and so they're holding it for other people to climb through that, and assist people through that phase in their life. And so they are in a sense a gatekeeper, whatever. But it doesn't mean that we have to hold on to that person's belief system, where it helps us to now extend ourselves and move on and explore more and more and more. And so I can say, like 5 years ago, I thought, oh, like I know so much. Now I look back and I thought, Damn, I knew nothing.
It was what you needed at the time. And yeah, we got to be careful of
Exactly
the
what I needed at the
gatekeepers that are ushering you into their new churches. They're building all these
time. Yeah.
rules and ideals and trying to limit you where you're trying to become unbound and connecting to the creator, the original source, and not have to enter into these, so to speak, churches of ideas, because that's what people are doing. So is it Kermit? I don't know why I keep thinking about Sesame Street when the phone calls like, hello? Hello? Like, so these are the cards that you pulled from Colette Reed, Colette Baron Reed. It's a great one.
I did. I did. I'm sorry. Yes. So I think, as we are moving, as we are evolving, it's important for us to stay. The first card was slow and steady. Like we can envision something in that we want to create. The ability to all of a sudden be there, we end up missing the steps, and sometimes those steps are important for us to do it. So if we're moving slow and steady, and it's funny, she's in a shell, right? She's breaking out of the shell.
Ain't
She's the
that
ghost
something,
breaking out of the shell.
girl?
Yeah, it's like, wow, I just realized that. She's the
Wow.
ghost breaking out of the shell. So you need to do it slow and steady. You can't expect to be, at level 49 when you've just started you're just breaking out of your shell. You have to move through those steps. And you can move through them quickly, but you can't jump from 1 to 20 to 50. You've got to work through them. You can it's like climbing the stairs. If you're climbing a set of stairs, you climb each one of them. You can skip a step, but then by the time you get to the top, you're not sure, what did I just do? So I think it's important for us to, and this is, I think the message is, move slow and steady. That steady movement is what you want to have, especially when you're breaking out of the shell. You're going to move, and then you're going to build momentum, right? So that's where that slow and steady starts with, and the momentum builds. And then before you know it, do you have anything you want to say with that?
I want to say that slow and steady allows you to observe, to be in touch with yourself, to keep on understanding, who am I? Where am I? Am I where I want to be? What do I want? And slow and steady. I'm just blown away that it was a shell.
Yeah. And if you go
Me and
back to
Terry
those,
did not talk about these things before she pulls these cards, and
yeah,
that
they do it.
crazy.
And those 13 steps that we had, I think it's important to follow
Let's look
those,
at what
right?
the 12th step was. The 12th step was close the old portals, return the keys, block the X, burn old letters. The ghost fades when we don't feed it.
Yeah. So as we do these, they'll go through those steps slow and steady. Then I believe what happens is then we become wide open. Like we're climbing up those steps. We've moved through those steps, and then that brings us to the space of being wide open and saying, "Okay, what is it that I want?" There's the world is open. The world is an oyster. It's another shell, but it's you know what,
Oh my
you
God,
have
that's wild. Because when you're in the shell, you're trapped, and his like possibilities are wide open. Holy cow.
yeah.
I think this is amazing.
So when you open up, it's like, oh my gosh, there's a whole sea in front of me. Like, it's just, there's just a possibility. So what are the possibilities you want to bring into your that you want to experience in this lifetime, right? And
Be unbound.
yeah, wide
Yet
open.
still you're unbound, but yet she's still grounded. She still got her
Yeah.
feet on the ground,
And
but she's
then
still at the pinnacle. She's still going to reach to the highest points, calling out to the heavens, but still grounded.
Mm-hmm. And then once you're doing that, then you can ride the wave. You can catch that wave when you're grounded. You can see what and say, I'm going to go on. I'm going to flow on this wave right now. You're going to ride those waves into whatever it is you want to create in your life.
And you're
And what
surrounded
happens with
by
that
water.
wave? That wave eventually comes to shore and it gets grounded.
And the water, you're in touch with your emotions. How do
Yeah.
you feel? You've checked in and you're aware of your emotions. It's below you, so it's a part of the picture, but it's not the entire picture because your
That's
head
right.
is above the water because you don't want to be drowned by your emotions. And I think when you're in the shell, you have the possibility of being drowned or suffocated.
Yeah.
You're being suffocated. That's why you're a ghost. But now you're breaking above and your head is above the water. You're in touch with your emotions. You still feel them and you still honor them, but you're now moving forward. They got momentum. It takes momentum for them to leap like that. They are not allowing themselves to stay underwater. Dolphins could stay underwater, but they jump out
Yeah.
and they breathe. They catch air. They get sunlight still. They have the will to keep pushing. Can you imagine the energy it takes? The calories they burn? I wonder how much they have to eat. But the calories
Yeah.
burned to push and break through the surface of the water and basically fly. And so think about
Yeah.
that for yourself.
Mm-hmm.
It's going to take some momentum.
Right. And those steps are the momentum that we need.
Wow.
And all it is it's giving you your self-confidence. It's bringing you back into yourself and bringing in some confidence into who you are. Instead of it's empowering. Those steps are empowering.
It's pretty nice, Terry. Pretty nice.
Mm.
Ride the
Pretty
wave.
amazing how those cards just show up like this, eh?
Yeah. Yep. She looks like a ghost in the shell.
Mm-hmm.
And she's
Just
doing it
getting
on
her
her
way.
in her time. And I believe that too, that the slow and steady, she's doing it in her time.
Yeah,
Not when everybody else says.
exactly.
Doesn't mean to sit there in fear, but it just means you got your timing at
Yeah,
the right time. Yeah, I
yeah,
love it. I love it. I love it. I love
yeah,
it.
yeah.
Good
Perfect.
job, Karen. Good job. Good job,
Perfect,
speaker.
perfect, perfect.
So I'm going off to see Patricia because it's time for my feng shui.
And I'm going out
Oh, and
to
she
the
said, I
country and
sent
do
you
some
my love.
gardening.
Oh, you want to do some gardening? Oh, that's right. Okay, so good. You
Okay.
have some places to go, people to see, things to do.
I'm gonna play in the garden today. So yeah.
Okay, great.
So we'll be back next week and we'll do some oracle readings after next week. But this week it's playtime.
It has been rest and play. I believe that was
Mm-hmm.
one of the steps. Rest
Yeah.
and play.
Yeah.
Rest and play. Yeah, play, rest, cry. Love that child
Yeah.
inside. And gardening,
Yeah.
that must be very much inner child work as
Ooh,
well.
I saw a pair of fairy shoes. And I think the fairies would really love me to find those shoes. I have no idea where I'm going to find them, but I think I need them for when I'm in the garden.
That would be so neat to have some little gnarly boots that are decorated.
Yeah,
You know how
yeah.
the boots have the big hump on the oh gosh. Probably some boots like olive
I
oil.
think I dropped the picture for you in Facebook, but they're just adorable. Fairy shoes today.
Oh,
Send them to you.
maybe thinking like olive oil's boots decorated. That's what I'm looking at. You know, how she had the lump in the top of the boot. I was out of the and make it all green and furry or something. Huh. Well, it was great hanging out with you all, and we have to fly. Fly.